Once upon a time, in a lush green meadow filled with the sweet tunes of singing cicadas, there lived a female cicada named Tory. Tory was known throughout the meadow for her bravery, determination, and kindness. But most of all, she loved to fly. Tory would zoom and loop around the meadow, feeling the wind beneath her wings and the sun on her back. One day, while practicing her aerial maneuvers, she heard the distant hum of an approaching cicada. As he flew closer, Tory recognized him. It was Zed, the fastest male cicada in the meadow. Zed had just returned from the annual flying competition held in the neighboring Willow Creek, where the best flying cicadas from all over the region gathered to show off their skills. "Did you hear?" Zed said, landing beside Tory. "I won first place again this year. The competition was fierce, but my top speed of 23 miles per hour was too much for the others." He puffed out his chest proudly, and Tory couldn't help but smile. She was happy for Zed, but she also couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. She had always loved flying competitions, but she had never dared to enter one. As the days passed, Tory thought about the flying competition more and more. She wanted to test her skills against the other cicadas, but she knew that she might not be good enough. You see, Tory had heard a rumor that female cicadas were not allowed to participate in the flying competition. According to the old tales, long ago, a female cicada had tried out, but she hadn't been able to keep up with the boys, and ever since then, no other females had dared to try. One day, Tory worked up the courage to ask Zed about the rumor. She found him practicing his aerial maneuvers, and she asked, "Zed, is it true that girls can't fly as fast as guys?" Zed stopped his practice and looked at Tory. "Why do you want to know?" he asked. Tory took a deep breath and said, "I want to compete in the flying competition, but I don't want to waste everyone's time if I'm not good enough." Zed stared at her for a moment, then he shook his head and said, "That's not true. Girls can fly just as fast as guys. In fact, I'm sure you could be the fastest of us all." Tory's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" she asked. "You don't think I'd be wasting everyone's time?" Zed smiled and said, "Of course not. I've seen you fly. You're amazing." Relieved and excited, Tory thanked Zed and went off to practice in preparation for the competition. However, when the day of the competition arrived, Tory was met with some disappointing news. Sure enough, as she neared the edge of the meadow, she could hear the buzz of the crowd. And as she peeked through the tall grass, she saw a group of male cicadas gathered in a circle, talking excitedly. Tory took a deep breath and walked into the clearing. All the cicadas turned to stare at her, and one of them, a burly cicada with large wings, stepped forward. "What do you want?" he demanded. Tory took another deep breath and said, "I'm here to compete in the flying competition." A low growl rose from the crowd. The burly cicada stepped forward again and said, "This is a competition for males only. You heard the rules. Females aren't allowed to compete." Tory felt her heart sink, but she quickly shook off her disappointment and said, "I'm sorry, but I didn't know that. I only heard rumors, so I thought I'd ask you directly. May I compete?" The burly cicada hesitated, then he looked at the other cicadas. They all looked back at him, their faces serious. Finally, the burly cicada nodded and said, "Very well, you may compete, but if you lose, don't complain." Tory smiled and thanked him. Then she joined the other cicadas in the center of the clearing, ready to show them what she could do. The competition began with a series of speed trials. Each cicada took off and flew as fast as they could for 100 yards. The fastest time would win. The other cicadas took off one by one, and Tory watched them go. They were all fast, but she knew that she could beat them. When her turn came, she took a deep breath, spread her wings, and zoomed into the air. She flew over the course as fast as she could, feeling the wind rush through her legs and the sun warm her back. She crossed the line and landed, and the other cicadas applauded. Her time was 22 miles per hour, just 1 mile per hour slower than Zed's. Next came the agility trials. The cicadas had to perform a series of aerial maneuvers, such as loops, rolls, and dives, and they would be judged on their speed, accuracy, and style. Tory watched as the other cicadas took their turns. They were all very good, but she knew that she could do better. When it was her turn, she took a deep breath, spread her wings, and soared into the air. She performed each maneuver with grace and precision, feeling the wind beneath her wings and the sun on her back. She finished her routine and landed, and the other cicadas burst into applause. The judges huddled together to discuss their scores, and Tory waited patiently. Finally, they announced that she had won the agility trials. The final event was the freestyle trials, where each cicada could show off any tricks or maneuvers that they wanted. Tory had a few tricks up her sleeve that she knew would wow the crowd. As she watched the other cicadas perform, she could tell that the competition was fierce, but she knew that she could do better. When it was her turn, she took a deep breath, spread her wings, and soared into the air. She performed each trick and maneuver with grace and precision, feeling the wind beneath her wings and the sun on her back. She finished her routine and landed, and the crowd burst into applause. The judges huddled together to discuss their scores, and Tory waited patiently. Finally, it was time to announce the winner. The burly cicada with large wings stepped forward and said, "The winner of the agility trials and the freestyle trials is Tory." The crowd burst into cheers and Tory couldn't help but smile. She had done it. She had won the flying competition. As the celebration continued into the night, Tory couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had proven that she was one of the best flying cicadas in the meadow, even better than some of the males. And as she looked out at the cheering crowd, she saw Zed smiling back at her, his eyes full of admiration. From that day on, Tory was known throughout the meadow as the brave Tory, the female cicada who dared to compete against the males and won. She continued to practice her flying skills and she never forgot the feeling of victory. And Zed, well, he continued to win the flying competition every year, but he never did it alone. Every year he would fly with Tory by his side, and together they would soar through the skies, feeling the wind beneath their wings and the sun on their backs.